Beneath King Minos' palace, a labyrinth twisted endlessly through the darkness, but no one who entered ever escaped. Every 9 years, 14 young Athenians were sacrificed to the creature trapped inside, the Minotaur, half man and half beast whose hunger couldn't be satisfied, until one hero decided to venture into the maze himself. This is the story of Theseus and the Minotaur, a tale as old as time itself, whispered across generations. So settle in, breathe deeply, and let us begin. Our story begins not in Crete but across the Aegean Sea in the city of Athens, where the sun rises over white marble and olive groves, and the people live under a terrible shadow. Every 9 years, a dark debt must be paid. Athens, once defeated in war by the powerful King Minos, must send a tribute. Not gold, not grain, but something far more precious. 7 young men and 7 young women, chosen by lot, must board a black-sailed ship and sail to Crete, never to return. For these 14 souls are sent into the labyrinth, the vast maze beneath the palace, where dwells the Minotaur, a creature half man and half bull, born of divine punishment and ancient curses. The Minotaur is no ordinary beast. It is the offspring of Pasiphaë, wife of King Minos, and a sacred bull sent by Poseidon himself. When Minos refused to sacrifice the magnificent bull as promised, the god of the sea took his revenge, cursing Pasiphaë with an unnatural love for the creature. From this union came the Minotaur, a being of terrible strength and savage hunger. Shamed by this monstrous child, Minos commanded his master craftsman Daedalus to build a prison from which no one could escape. And so Daedalus designed the labyrinth, a maze so complex, with passages that twisted back upon themselves, with corridors that led nowhere and everywhere at once, that any who entered would wander lost until they met the Minotaur in the darkness. For 2 cycles, Athens has paid this tribute. Twice, 14 of their children have disappeared into that maze, and now the time has come again. Throughout the city, families tremble as the lots are drawn. Mothers clutch their sons, fathers hold their daughters, all praying their names will not be called. But in the palace, a young man steps forward. His name is Theseus, son of Aegeus, king of Athens. Some whisper that his true father is Poseidon, for Theseus has shown strength and courage beyond mortal men since he was young. He has walked the dangerous road from Trojan to Athens, defeating bandits and monsters along the way. He has claimed his birthright as prince, and now he makes a choice that will define his legend. Theseus speaks to his father in the throne room where afternoon light streams through high windows. "I will go," he says. "I will volunteer as one of the 14. I will enter the labyrinth and I will kill the Minotaur. I will end this tribute forever." King Aegeus, old and worn by grief, tries to dissuade his son. "No man who has entered that maze has ever returned," he warns. "The labyrinth keeps its secrets. Even if you defeat the creature, you will be lost forever in those winding passages." But Theseus is resolute. He is young, and his heart burns with the need to prove himself, to save his people, to become the hero he believes he was born to be. And so it is decided. Theseus joins the other 13, chosen or volunteered, and together they prepare for the journey. King Aegeus gives his son one request. The ship that carries the tribute sails with black sails, a symbol of mourning and death. "If you succeed," the king says, "if you somehow defeat the Minotaur and escape, change these black sails to white ones. Then I will know, even before you reach harbor, that you live, that Athens is free." Theseus promises and embraces his father. Then he boards the vessel with the others, and the black sails catch the wind, carrying them across the open water toward Crete. The voyage takes several days. The ship moves steadily south and east, through channels between islands, past rocky shores and fishing villages. The young Athenians huddle together on deck, some weeping, others silent, all facing an uncertain fate. But Theseus stands at the bow, watching the horizon, his jaw set with determination. He speaks to his companions, calms their fears as best he can, tells them stories of his adventures to distract them from what awaits. He does not know if he can truly defeat the Minotaur. He does not know if escape is possible, but he refuses to let despair take hold. At last, the island of Crete appears. It rises from the sea like a great beast itself, mountains climbing toward the clouds, valleys green with vineyards and cypress trees. The ship glides into harbor, and before them stands the palace of Knossos, vast and magnificent, its walls painted with scenes of dolphins and dancers, its columns red as blood, its many levels and courtyards sprawling across the hillside. This is the seat of King Minos, the most powerful ruler in all the known world, whose fleets control the seas, whose laws govern distant lands. The Athenians are led from the ship by guards in bronze armor, marched through the great gates into the palace complex, and brought before the throne. King Minos sits in judgment, an old man now, his beard silver, his eyes cold as winter seas. Beside him sits his daughter, the Princess Ariadne, a young woman of renowned beauty, with dark curling hair and eyes like deep water. She watches as the Athenians are presented, as her father speaks the ritual words that seal their fate. Tomorrow at dawn, Minos declares, you will be sent into the labyrinth. May the gods have mercy on your souls. The guards begin to lead them away, but Ariadne's gaze lingers on one face in particular, on Theseus. That night, the Athenians are kept in rooms within the palace, locked but not uncomfortable, given food and wine they barely touch. Theseus stands at the window, looking out over the dark valley toward the center of the palace complex where the entrance to the labyrinth lies hidden. He is testing the lock when he hears a soft sound behind him. He turns to find a hooded figure in the doorway, and when the hood falls back, it reveals Ariadne. She presses a finger to her lips, urging silence, and closes the door softly behind her. The princess speaks quickly, her voice barely a whisper. I saw you today, she says. I saw something in your eyes, a light the others did not have. You mean to fight, not merely to die. Theseus nods slowly, wary but intrigued. Then you will need help, Ariadne continues. The labyrinth cannot be conquered by strength alone. My father built it to be inescapable. Even if you defeat the Minotaur, you will wander those passages until you die of thirst or madness, but I know a way. She reaches into her robes and draws out two objects. The first is a bronze sword, short and leaf-shaped, its edge sharp as broken glass. The second is a ball of thread, simple linen wound tight. Ariadne explains her plan. Before you enter, you will tie one end of this thread to the entrance. As you walk, unwind it behind you. After you have done what you must do, follow the thread back. It is the only way. She places the sword and thread in his hands, and her fingers linger on his for a moment. Why are you helping me? Theseus asks. What do you gain from this? Ariadne looks away, and when she speaks again, her voice is heavy with sorrow. I have watched my father send innocents to die for years, she says. I have heard their screams echoing up from below. I am tired of being complicit in this cruelty. And perhaps if you succeed, if you take me from this place, I can finally be free of it. Theseus sees the pain in her eyes and makes a promise. If I live, I will take you from here. I swear it. She nods, pulls her hood back up, and slips away into the shadows as quietly as she came. Dawn comes too soon. The Athenians are roused before the sun breaks the horizon, led through the waking palace and down long flights of stone stairs worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air grows cool and damp. Torches flicker on the walls, casting dancing shadows. They descend into the earth, into chambers carved from living rock, until they reach a great bronze door marked with ancient symbols. This is the entrance to the labyrinth. Guards stand ready. Ariadne is there too, standing beside her father, her face carefully blank. But as Theseus passes, he feels something pressed into his hand, a small iron spike. With it, he will be able to secure the thread. The bronze door groans open, revealing darkness beyond, a corridor that leads into the unknown. The Minotaur's bellow echoes from somewhere deep within, a sound like a bull's roar mixed with something almost human, filled with rage and hunger. The other Athenians flinch, but Theseus stands tall. One by one they are pushed through the doorway, and then the great door slams shut behind them and they are alone in the dark. For a moment, no one moves. The darkness is total, pressing against their eyes like a physical thing. Then Theseus acts. He pulls out the spike, drives it into a crack in the stone wall beside the door, and ties the end of Ariadne's thread to it firmly. He draws the bronze sword. Then he tells the others to stay close, to hold onto each other to follow him. Some protest, saying they should split up or hide, but Theseus's voice is calm and commanding. The labyrinth wants us to scatter, he says. It wants us alone and afraid. We stay together. They begin to walk. The passage slopes downward, the walls close enough to touch on either side. The thread unwinds behind them, a lifeline back to the world above. They come to an intersection, and Theseus chooses the right path without hesitation. They walk for what feels like hours, though time has no meaning here. The passages twist and turn, sometimes opening into larger chambers, sometimes narrowing so they must go single file. Everywhere the stone is marked with scratches, desperate claw marks from previous victims, old bloodstains long dried to rust. And always echoing through the maze they hear the Minotaur. Sometimes close, sometimes far, its roar and the thunder of its hooves against stone. The group's fear is palpable. Some of the younger ones weep quietly, but they press on, because to stop is to die. Theseus keeps them moving, his voice steady, his hand firm on the sword. He has fought many monsters, but never in such darkness, never in such a trap. He must rely on sound, on instinct, on the courage that has carried him this far. The thread continues to unspool. Then in a wide chamber where their footsteps echo loud, they hear it, breathing, heavy, ragged breathing, very close, and the scrape of a hoof on stone. Theseus pushes the others back, steps forward alone. His eyes have adjusted somewhat to the dark, and by the faint phosphorescence of moss on the walls he sees it. The Minotaur. It is massive, towering over any man, its body thick with muscle. Its legs are human but ending in cloven hooves. Its torso is a man's, scarred and matted with filth and old blood. But its head is that of a bull, a huge bovine skull with curved horns as long as swords, its eyes rolling white in the dimness, its mouth open and dripping. It sees Theseus and roars, a sound that shakes dust from the ceiling. Then it charges. Theseus rolls aside as the creature thunders past, its horns striking sparks from the stone wall. The Minotaur is fast despite its size, spinning with terrible speed. It charges again. This time Theseus stands his ground until the last moment, then dodges and slashes with the bronze sword, opening a wound along the creature's ribs. The Minotaur bellows in pain and rage. Black blood drips onto the floor. The fight is brutal. In the confined space, Theseus has little room to maneuver. The Minotaur uses its horns like spears, slashing and stabbing. Theseus uses his speed, his training, rolling and ducking, striking when he can. He cuts the creature again and again, but it does not slow. It is maddened by pain, by hunger, by years of isolation in this dark place. It is as much a victim as those it has killed, Theseus realizes. A cursed being trapped by the sins of others, but sympathy will not save him. The Minotaur charges once more, and this time Theseus does not dodge. He drops to one knee and braces the sword upward with both hands. The creature impales itself on the blade, the bronze biting deep into its chest. It stands there, transfixed, its weight driving the sword deeper. It reaches for Theseus with massive hands, but its strength is fading. Its roar becomes a groan, then a sigh, and then it falls crashing to the stone floor, the sword still buried in its heart. Theseus stands slowly, every muscle trembling. The Minotaur is dead. Behind him, the other Athenians emerge cautiously from the passage. They stare at the fallen beast, at the hero who has saved them. But there is no time for celebration. Now we must escape, Theseus says. He retrieves the sword and turns back the way they came, following the thread. The return journey is long. They walk through the twisting passages, the thread their only guide, their only hope. Several times they hear sounds, other things moving in the dark. Perhaps more creatures dwell in these depths. Perhaps they are only echoes, only their imaginations. They do not stop to investigate. They follow the thread. Hour after hour they climb back upward through the maze. Their legs ache. Their throats are parched, but the thread does not break, does not fail. It leads them true. And finally, they see light ahead. The bronze door. Theseus pulls the spike free, winds up the thread, and pounds on the door with his fist. At first there is no response. Then they hear voices, the sound of the great bar being lifted. The door swings open and they are blinded by the light of torches, by the pale light of early morning. Guards stand ready with spears, shocked to see anyone emerge. Behind them, Ariadne stares, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Theseus steps out and the others follow, all 14 Athenians alive and free. The palace erupts in chaos. News spreads like wildfire. The Minotaur is dead. The labyrinth has been conquered. King Minos rages, orders Theseus arrested, but the young hero is too quick. He takes Ariadne's hand and together with the freed Athenians they run. Through the palace, down to the harbor, onto their ship. The guards pursue, but the Athenians are already casting off, already raising the sail. The wind catches it, the black sail that should have been changed but in the rush was forgotten, and the ship leaps forward across the waves. Behind them, Crete grows smaller. Ahead lies the open sea and beyond it home. But our story is not quite finished. The voyage back is bittersweet. Ariadne stands at the rail beside Theseus, watching her homeland disappear. She has given up everything to help him, to escape the shadow of her father's palace. Theseus promised to take her to Athens, to make her his wife, to honor her courage. And he means it in that moment. But fate, as always, has other plans. The ship stops at the island of Naxos for fresh water and supplies. Ariadne falls asleep on the beach, exhausted from the journey. And as she sleeps, Theseus receives a dream, or perhaps a vision. The god Dionysus appears to him and speaks. Ariadne is meant for me, the god says. She is destined to be my bride, to become immortal, to live among the gods. You must leave her here. Theseus wakes troubled. He looks at Ariadne sleeping peacefully in the sand, and he wrestles with his conscience. In some versions of the tale, he abandons her willingly, his promise forgotten. In others, he leaves reluctantly, obeying the will of the gods. In still others, they are separated by storm, by fate, by forces beyond mortal control. However it happens, when Ariadne wakes, she is alone. The ship is gone, a sail on the distant horizon. She weeps. But then Dionysus comes to her in truth, the god of wine and ecstasy, of wilderness and divine madness. He comforts her, loves her, and raises her to Olympus. Her crown becomes a constellation in the night sky. Her sorrow becomes joy. She is transformed. Meanwhile, Theseus sails on toward Athens, his heart heavy with guilt, his mind troubled. And in his distraction, he forgets something crucial. He forgets to change the sails. The ship approaches Athens, still flying the black sail of mourning. King Aegeus, old and frail, has waited on the cliffs every day since his son departed, watching the sea for any sign of his return. When he sees the black sail, his heart breaks. He believes Theseus is dead, that the Minotaur has claimed his son. Overcome with grief, the old king throws himself from the cliff into the sea below. The waters that claim him are named the Aegean in his memory, and they bear that name to this day. Theseus lands in Athens, a hero and a parricide, the slayer of the Minotaur and the unwitting cause of his father's death. He becomes king, and he rules wisely and well, but he is forever marked by the cost of his glory. His story becomes legend, told and retold around fires and in palaces, in poems and songs. The tale of the young hero who braved the labyrinth, who trusted in a ball of thread and a princess's love, who killed a monster and saved his people but lost so much in the process. And so our story ends, as all old stories do, with lessons and mysteries, with triumphs and tragedies intertwined. The labyrinth of Crete is empty now, its dark corridors silent, its terrible guardian gone. But the maze lives on in memory, a symbol of the puzzles we all must navigate, the monsters we all must face, the threads that guide us home. Thank you for journeying with me tonight, back through the mists of time to an age of gods and heroes. May your own path be clear, your own thread hold fast, and your own rest be peaceful and deep. Until next time, sleep well.